Hello, Jillaine. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Vida. Thank you. This is wonderful.
Excellent. I am really excited to talk to you today about grounding. This has been a wild start to the year. I don't know about you, but there's a lot of like swift shifting swings that are kind of like, oh, I'm doing really great. Oh, there's some baggage. Oh, I'm doing really great. So there's a lot of tipsy-turvy stuff going on. And then you have this lovely, it's a new year, I'm excited energy. So there's a lot of excitement too. So I would love to hear from you how you like to ground and stay centered and focused amidst all of this expansion at the same time.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, it's definitely, I think, one of the fundamental tools that we have for me, it's kind of like the foundation to our energy alignment. You know, as an architect, for me, you know, you have a stable foundation to all this dynamic energy that's moving around. So I like to ground, especially in these times with, like you said, the energy moving so swiftly. Every now and then, I like to ground like how we did in level 1, you know, like our first instruction in grounding that Jim gave us was opening the chakras of the feet, which are around the arches, opening them up, saying hello to Mother Earth, then feeling the energy coming up through the feet, the legs. I like to be playful and swirl it around in my knees, then going up the thighs, swirl it around in the hips, and then sending the grounding cord, that electromagnetic cord, you know, anchoring it down into the center of the earth. And also, you know, you can receive the energy, especially since the earth changes are being so dynamic and continuous. You can also, you know, get yourself updated with the earth energy and bring that energy up and around your energy field. So I've found myself doing that a lot often, just because it gives me such a sense of, of relaxation.
So what was that like then the first time you ground? Did you notice a big difference? Was it, or not at all?
Well, when I started, I was all in my head, obviously. And being an architect, oh my gosh, it was like, well, what's going to happen to my grounding cord if I'm laying down? And what about the angle? And, you know, my body's at this angle. And then, you know, and what's the distance? So probably I was not focused at all on the sensations in the body. It was all like rational mind trying to figure it out. And with time, I was able to get back, you know, following the program, I was able to finally get back into my body. And then is when I could really, you know, feel the grounding. It's a very clear sensation in the body, and it's a stability. It's hard to explain, but it's you feel like this sense of relaxation and stability. You kind of relax into the earth energy.
I love what you're pointing out here, because it's such a process from start to where you're at now. It really develops into something that's totally new and continues to develop as you kind of get more and more quiet and allow your body to relax. So it is fun when you first have that experience of grounding. You typically are just inside your head. Am I doing it right? What is this? So when you can kind of let go of that and just go, I'm just going to see what happens. I'm going to play here and just experience this and see what's here. That's a great point to bring up, especially for anyone who's trying it, who's new or doesn't feel like they have it. And then would you say that it's something that you continue to do? So let's say, okay, you run through the energy through your feet to your spine and then back down. Do you do it again? Because what do you do when you're like really tight? You know how sometimes when you're like so tight, your shoulders are up here, but you don't even know. You're like, this is normal. Mm-hmm. And so maybe you can drop this much and then you can drop a little more. I mean, what are your thoughts on using that repeatedly?
Oh, definitely. I also I like to run through, especially if you're going out. For example, before this interview, I'm very, and I won't say I'm very shy, but let's say that what we're doing right now would have absolutely terrified me even 5 years ago. So what I did is just, as a concrete application of the grounding cord, I, went through the whole process, and then I sent down the grounding cord, any feelings in my energy space, in my, in my energy field of being timid, afraid, what if the words aren't going to come to me, all of that energy of maybe I'm not okay, just any remnants of that energy of, I'm of exposure and, being caught in the headlights, that same energy I just kept, and it was also about a process, doing it intentionally means sometimes just visualize it going down into the grounding cord, and then the earth neutralizes that energy. So if this is flowing at all, it's thanks to the grounding cord. Otherwise, I'd be like, oh, what was that word?
This is really cool what you're pointing out, because you're pointing out two really important things. One, as a tool before you walk into the room. I could be nervous. This has happened in the past. I usually have these old patterns. Let's just flush anything out of the system that still sits there. Off it goes. But then you're also talking too about conversation flow, which is really interesting about an energy flow in the way that you're talking. Can I communicate? Can I convey what I need to say? And using the grounding as a way to make sure your energy is kind of moving and flowing out, that there's no stuck spaces. At least that's what it sounds like you were kind of alluding to in that space as well.
Yes,
do you have any more
definitely.
thoughts on that? Like, that's really powerful.
Well, I think with my explorations on the grounding cord over all these years, I think that finally the way to get out of my head and allow myself to feel is to actually recognize this, that our energy fields are dynamic and in flow. So that really helps. I think that really, this oscilloscope, the more, in a way, the more, going to sound ironic, but the more stability in that structure you have, the more the flow can be what it is, flow, be creative, be dynamic. So it's really all about balance, I think. And so you do have your structure of the certain, capable, accomplished. You have your structure of, of the words, and you have your grounding cord, the roads, but then, the stability, kind of the stability is what gives you freedom. I know it sounds very contradictory, but it's the alignment that gives you the freedom to create, from the infinite possibilities.
Would you say, and this was interesting, I went to a class on the lymphatic system, and they were talking about how the body, when we perceive of it being extremely dense, you're thinking about it bones. In fact, when you are exercising your lymphatic system, or you're just ever so lightly touching, and you're just ever so slightly moving. And it was interesting, her concept where she said, hey, you think of yourself as this really dense and you want strength and strong and that sort of thing, but there's so much more flow. And that I think what you're pointing to here is that there's strength in the flow. Like it's the flow that creates the strength when you're in that alignment of this is how I want to experience what's in front of me. So that's kind of a really interesting state because we usually think of flow as like, oh, I don't know, or chaotic thoughts, right? Where it's kind of all over the place. But in this way, it's a managed flow. And we talk about this with like the energy movement clockwise and then counterclockwise, how that creates the vortex. So it's an interesting, and that's the alignment that creates how your nerves run and your blood and all of the things that move around your body. I can't remember. There's an empty flow right there, but yeah. So this is a really great point you're bringing up about strength through grounding, not as like I'm here grounded in that same sense, but it's a flow, a state of flow.
Yes.
That's amazing.
It's a fluid stability.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Well, thank you for opening this thought up for me and really expanding this out and kind of the grounding concept on what we can kind of really do with it and how we perceive ourselves being grounded, because there's a lot of room for creativity and expansion in that space. So thank you. Is there any other thoughts or comments you have on the grounding? This is amazing. I appreciate you.
Just that. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I would just say that, yes, it's one of our best allies, one of the best allies we have, one of the most basic tools. This is like a foundational tool for our well-being. So just to always say hello to Mother Earth through our grounding cords.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Jillaine. I appreciate you. Thank you very much.